The Andrew Dillon Experience.
Hey, fucker, come here. Let me test your pee.
Let me look at your urine.
Yeah, like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
Like, why have we normalized that?
Yeah, it is a little strange. And like the thing that Hamilton Morris says about it's really interesting, where it's like it's this very unique sort of like peek into your chemical life
Yeah.
of like it's not just like things that you've consumed drug wise, it's like things that you've eaten and like like
It's a lot of access.
a little bit of health information, even like
Yeah.
how your liver's doing and stuff like that. You can kind of tell based on urine. Apparently, it's like really weird.
That's
to think
so
about.
strange. Yeah, that's just weird. Not a
It's
fan.
totally normal though. Let's collect everybody's urine at work.
Yeah. Like, oh, okay. When you say it out loud, you're like, oh, that is weird.
Yeah, but that's the same. That's true for a lot of things. When you sit and think about some of the stuff, like wearing clothes, for example, when
Well-
you think about it enough, it's like, that's a little bit strange. There's no other species on the planet
That wears
that
clothes.
like puts on some article of another animal's skin
Oof. Yeah.
to stay warm,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Octopi will use like shells to cover themselves.
yeah.
That's weird.
I should.
Obviously, it's like that's not animal skin.
I should be more
right?
careful
But-
because I've said that. I've said something similar in the past where it's like, I'll say like, first of all, we're discovering thousands of new species every day because of the Amazon. That's why, like, that's crazy. Like thousands of species of
mind-boggling.
bugs a
a
day,
day.
because of the Amazon, and then like certain numbers of species of like, aquatic life, certain numbers of mammals, but like the mammals in aquatic life very small, but
Right.
like bugs mainly, we're discovering thousands of species. So there may be a bug out there that puts on the skin of another bug or something.
Ugh.
That'd be really interesting. I used to say that about farming. I was like, there's no other animal on the planet that farms.
ants.
And there are, yeah. Agriculture. Ants do agriculture.
Yep. They farm. What is it, like fungus or something like
There's
that?
a fungus that they
feed it, or like they like.
I think they chew it up and then spit it out, and then it grows, and then they use it for food.
Well, they go and they like it's the leaf cutter ants or something like that.
Yeah.
Where they go out and they like cut down a bunch of like leaves.
Right.
And then they carry
Bring
them
it
back,
back to
and then
their-
they just stick it in the
And then it grows
fungus,
and they eat
it grows and it eats it. I think the fungus actually envelops or like
It's like a two-way relationship though.
Mutually
like
beneficial,
the fungus is
right.
dependent on the ants to grow.
is symbiotic. Is that a symbiotic?
It's symbiotic. Yeah.
Right.
The fungus depends on the ants like planting it in order to grow, and then the ants depend on it as a food source.
That's so wild.
So there's other species out there that do agriculture, which I would have never
Farmer
guessed.
ants.
Now, I will say I'm fairly confident there's no other species out there that drinks the milk of another animal.
That's kind of weird.
Because
Yeah.
we drink cow milk.
Yeah. That's an interesting.
There's
one.
also no other species out there that drinks milk into adulthood.
That's true.
So like
We're just
I could have a
bunch of
glass of milk
babies.
right now
Yeah.
of another animal as an adult.
I've gotten into plant-based milk or like
Yeah?
nut-based milk.
Okay, I was gonna say something. what's yeah, I bet you
Almond
like that
almond
nut-based
milk, like almond milk.
What's your favorite plant-based milk?
I was for a little while. I was drinking this milk called like Ripple or something like that.
Yeah,
It was real hipster milk.
Ripple.
Like you could just look at the bottle and you're like, hipsters, like which is why I bought it, of
You
course.
sound like a boomer.
And then I have boomer parents, so
Yeah.
but anyway, I think it was I don't know, it just said plant-based milk. It was very vague, but it had like peas, like pea milk in it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bunch of weird different vegetables or
So there's something really
something.
interesting about plant-based milk. Apparently, like there's some studies which say that almond milk is actually not good for you. Because almonds, first of all, one of the most deadly like poisons and chemical weapons comes from almonds.
What?
Yes.
No way.
Yeah. I
What is
swear to
it?
God. I can't remember the name of it. I think it's like niacin or something like that. It's like maybe it's ricin.
I'm gonna look it up.
You should look it up. But yeah, but
I'm Googling this right now.
but yeah,
Go for it.
it's you can look it up. I swear, I'm not making this up. But yeah, apparently, like one of the more toxic chemical weapons comes from like this chemical process done on almonds. So there was a study that showed that like even just in eating almonds, like you get a certain amount of that apparently. So then almond milk apparently makes that like even worse than just like eating the
What?
almond as it by itself because of like
so you get like trace amounts of it from eating them,
right.
And
And then
when
when
you
you
drink the milk,
basically like remove the husk and like all the fiber
it makes
content,
it even
it makes it
worse.
worse apparently.
okay.
Yeah.
How do I even Google this? What?
Google chemical weapons from almonds.
Chemical weapons.
Yeah.
Weapons
Maybe you might want to be in private mode.
from almonds. Yeah. We don't want them to see this.
Yeah, you're gonna get flagged.
Oof.
You'll be on a no-fly list.
As a gas, cyanide is colorless and
Oh,
has
that's
a
what it is.
bitter almond smell. Okay, there are two kinds of cyanide. Hold up. Chemical weapons. I'm going to make trout, amandine.
There is one though. Maybe it's not cyanide, but I think it's like it's one of those.
I don't see anything. Hold up. Chemicals from almonds. Let's just do that. From almonds.
I swear I'm not just making this up. But
I believe you.
but
I believe you. Hold up. Here we go. Technically, okay, hold on.
maybe look up
Oh,
toxins
okay.
in almonds.
Hydrogen cyanide is a natural component in peach and apricot pits. Almonds are a member of the same family.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Almonds commonly called hydrogen cyanide, but known technically as glycoside
So it's probably
amygdalin,
cyanide then that you can actually get.
transforms into toxic prussic acid after an almond is crushed or chewed.
Okay, there you go.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So then apparently, so now granted, this goes back to something that we've already said, which is like whenever you hear something like that, you have to look up who's funding it. Right.
Right.
Because this could easily be something that's funded by like dairy farmers.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
where they're like, kill the almond milk.
Yeah, definitely.
But-
I forgot that was something that we talked about in that episode with Sam.
Yeah.
We were talking about like, you got to figure out who's like funding it,
Right.
because it's at this point
Science is political inherently.
and that's what sucks.
Yeah,
And that's I'm
it's
just
unfortunate.
like, I don't know. That's what we were talking about with like research earlier.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm sick of like this. Everything has an agenda now. Not just everyone. Everything has an agenda. Like,
What do you mean?
like when you attach to an idea that you think is like pure and good, like research, and then like the further you get into it, you realize like just this idea of research or just like the act of research can be politically weaponized.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I would still say it's the people that are the problem. It's
it
not
is the people
idea
that are the
itself.
problem. It is the people that are the problem, but it's very discouraging. And like a lot of the stuff that you pick up and want to do, or at least me personally, I've experienced where like, I don't know, like I remember college football, for instance, when I played college football for like a semester or two, I was like, I loved football,
Mhm.
like just football, purely because I enjoyed the sport. I had a good time. I got into it and I was like, oh my God, this is so political. And I was like, I don't want to fucking play.
Yeah.
Because it's just political. Everybody's got their agenda. Everybody's got their ego that they're
Which is
pushing,
strange
like-
because you would think that like football is like a pure meritocracy where it's
No.
like the best player plays.
Nope.
No?
No. Dude, here's the
Surely
thing.
at like the highest levels though. Like at like NFL college
Maybe.
level.
Maybe, but you have to think about this. So if let's say you're a coach at a college football,
Mhm.
or at a college somewhere, and you offer a kid a scholarship. Okay,
Yeah.
that's money that the university has to give that kid to go to school there now, just because you thought he was good enough to play football.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine some kid walks on to the football team that y'all didn't think was that great, and he's better than the kid that you just gave a scholarship.
I see where you're going.
Now,
Like they're
yeah.
incentivized to play the kid that they paid for.
right, exactly. So if
So here's a counter argument.
okay,
Not to cut, I want to hear that.
No, you're good.
But like counter argument. So if the best kid plays and the team wins more often, then don't you think alums are going to contribute more? Like they're going to donate more money. So do you think that there's a stronger incentive?
Incentive?
The heck? You think there's a stronger incentive to play the best player?
In some cases, but I would also say, like, I don't know, football as a sport is inherently like pretty short-sighted. Just in general, not to be like a dick, but
attacking my religion.
I mean,
Jeez.
Football just inherently is like a short-sighted sport. I mean, right? I mean, you're not thinking about the long-term effects that it's going to have on your body.
A lot of sports are, right? MMA.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding? You're gonna get so many concussions. Like, also not to mention, like, unless you take very good care of your ears, like.
Not only that, but like even
have those
like
giant
your nose,
fucking
like
cauliflower.
How many
ears?
times are you gonna break your nose and you're gonna have surgery to get like a deviated septum fixed?
I don't know.
And like
I don't know about the nose breaking thing because of the gloves. I'm not sure how often you would break your nose.
A ton.
But I know for a fact you get these like sort of minor concussions basically all the time. And like, I mean, literally the sport is like you go until someone taps out or until you knock them out. Right?
Yeah.
So like they're literally getting knocked out.
Yep.
Sometimes. And
a lot.
Yeah.
And it's usually brutal. Some of them are freaking brutal.
So apparently a large part of that actually has to do with your jaw.
Yeah.
Like when you get
there's
hit,
a button.
It's like it like literally just compresses something that's like in your temples, and then your brain's like, nope, down.
Yeah,
shut off.
It's crazy. They call it like there's like a specific spot on your chin that you can hit. They call like hitting the button or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you hit them right there, it'll just game
I thought
over.
that was so cool. It's interesting to think like, I wonder why it does that. I wonder like what.
There's a pressure point. You ever like this right here?
No, I know. I mean, I know why, like, physiologically. I mean, like, what's the motivation?
And, like, in the brain?
Yeah, like, why did we evolve to have that?
I don't know.
Like, how is it helpful on an evolutionary,
I would say that maybe...
like, if you're taking a massive impact to the jaw, is there, like, some benefit to being unconscious?
I wonder if your body's like, whatever is about to happen, it's going to hurt, and I don't want to feel it.
That could be it, dude.
Like,
that really could be it. Yeah. That's interesting.
Like, because, I mean, I don't want to be awake if something very painful is about to happen. I'd rather be unconscious.
This sucks.
I'm out.
Yeah. See you in a couple minutes.
See you guys.
Can't work with this shit.
But, yeah, I mean, some of those knockouts are freaking brutal, man. I was watching them, but like,
dude, did you see the one that Joe Rogan put on his Instagram most recently? Like, the dude's like holding the guy's leg, and then he like ninja kicks him.
Dude,
that's so stinking cool.
Did you see? Sports Center posted on their Instagram. I'm sure you don't follow them, but they posted and they like followed up. And they were like, after the viral knockout, like here's 3 other ones that are crazy.
Yeah,
and there's one where this guy like kicks this dude in the chest, and then like the guy like falls down and like hits the cage or whatever, and then he like taunts him after he kicked him. He's like, get back up,
Yeah.
And then he like spins like he's gonna like kick him, and then spins again, and the guy is just lost, and he just like after like full momentum.
Wait, the guy that got knocked down?
Yeah.
Oh.
No. The guy that got knocked down is getting like absolutely obliterated because this guy like spins like he's gonna kick and then doesn't, and then spins one more time and uses all that momentum from spinning twice and just loads up and just knocks this dude
with his
out.
hand.
Yes.
Ooh.
And you can hear it, like you like hear his hand hit his jaw, and you're like,
yikes.
Holy shit, is he alive?
Dude, that's crazy.
Because he hits the ground, and you're like,
the craziest
brutal,
one,
man.
The craziest one I've seen is this guy was kicking. So it wasn't a knockout or anything.
Right.
But this guy was kicking the other guy, and he like his leg.
Oh, I've seen it.
He hits it, and his leg breaks on impact, and like wraps around the dude's leg.
That was Anderson
back.
Silva. Anderson Silva.
Was it?
Yes,
dude. It was.
My,
it's disgusting.
God, yes,
that video.
Oh, it's yeah. I hate that crap.
I do
that
too.
That stuff is disgusting.
But at the same time, I like want to do MMA.
Right? Oh yeah, I know. I want to do jujitsu. I don't know.
I want to. Okay, so here's I'm conflicted, right? Because jujitsu doesn't teach you any striking.
Right.
So like, sure, you'll be able to defend yourself, but you won't be able to like
do
any damage if you need to.
Right.
So
well, you could snap someone's arm.
Sure, but I mean, I don't know though. Like sometimes I feel like sometimes there's an advantage to being able to put distance between you and the other person.
Absolutely.
I know that like the jiu-jitsu way, like if you get in a fight and then you need to like shut it down, the jiu-jitsu way is to close the space. Right?
Yeah.
Like get them on the ground, close the space, and then start working with your options. Like
right.
Start looking for an armbar, start looking for a choke. Like those are your options. Look for a submission. But like you don't have the option of keeping them 6 feet away from you. So like if they're a trained striker, then they're going to be able to keep distance between you.
Right.
So you now have this like vulnerability to somebody who's like a kickboxer.
Right.
Who's going to be able to, or even just somebody who's got really great balance.
Right.
Who does know how to hit. Like you're at a disadvantage now because your entire approach is like, okay, I'm going to close the space and take it to the ground.
Yeah.
And particularly with like people that are much heavier than you, it's going to be hard to get them to the ground. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that was just like, I don't know.
I mean, that's always
anybody
the case.
That's big, like significantly larger than me.
Yeah.
There are a few things that would cause me to get into a fight with that person.
Right.
Like very few things.
I mean, unless they're the one that's starting it, right? Like if you don't have a choice, like
that's the point. If they're starting it, I'm just gonna get the fuck out of there. Like,
right. But that's the reason why I'm like a little bit conflicted. Like I want to learn some striking art, whether it's Muay Thai or kickboxing or something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But like, I mean, jiu-jitsu is like my favorite because like jiu-jitsu is like right up my alley.
Right.
Because it is physical, but it's such a mental martial art.
Yeah.
You're thinking the whole time. You're responding to like their actions. You're working with what they give you, and then it's
like a problem. You're solving a problem the whole time.
Dude, it's so neat. It's like it's one of the most.
I mean, you could almost argue that like striking practices are the same because I mean you're kind of having to watch what they're doing. You're kind of having to like respond and like.
I don't think so.
It's a little bit more barbaric.
I'm talking about a different thing. I think than you are. Like you're talking about like the mental focus. I'm talking about like strategy.
Okay.
Right. Like I think jiu-jitsu is like a planning art.
Okay. Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, this is like. For example, you're like, I'm gonna get my heels on their hip bones and like, and like get them up off their feet so that they'll fall, and then I'm gonna work my way to mount, and then from mount I'm gonna start work.
Right.
It's like you're like thinking a couple moves ahead before you ever get there,
right?
And you're constantly having to adapt. Where it's like, okay, maybe you do try and like. You try and trip them, you try a takedown or something, it doesn't work. It's like, okay, well, fuck, now what?
Right.
Whereas like with striking, it's more like you're reading body language. You're like, you're dodging or whatever.
Right.
I mean, I don't know a lot about striking, so
I don't either. Yeah.
But
I know there's like probably a little bit of setup.
It seems a lot more like it's reflexes and stuff. Like you're training reflexes. You're training. I mean, I'm sure there's strategy involved. There's obviously a lot of defense involved. Like, where does my offhand need to be right now so that I don't get punched in the fucking face?
Yeah. So you don't get hit in the temple. That's like the biggest thing is like don't get hit in the temple.
Dude. And like, do you know what Muay Thai is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like, dude, that's what's crazy about Muay Thai to me is it's like all knees and elbows and shit. And it's like, dude, that would hurt so bad.
Bad.
Because your hands aren't designed to like.
They're not designed to hit.
Punch.
No.
Because
like, I've never been in a fight, but I just like from punching anything, you just know that it hurts.
Yeah.
Your freaking hand. Like just hitting a punching bag without gloves on hurts like a bitch.
Well, I was reading something the other day and I don't know how true this is. I wish I had more friends that were into MMA, like actually did MMA, not just like watch it. I've got plenty of friends that watch it.
Right.
But like, I was reading this article about like, if you're boxing or something, then yeah, you can do closed fists because of the gloves. Right. But if you're in a street fight, it was talking about you actually want to do open palm strikes where you're using like the butt of your wrist to like hit them in the fucking.
Be so bruised though.
It would, but I mean, like think about like this. Like your knuckles are gonna get so bruised.
Yeah, that's true.
And you'll like jam your fingers.
Yeah, these seem a little more fragile than.
Apparently, like when people get in fights, like with cops and stuff, like they end up like breaking their hands.
God.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Because it's just like even you're strong enough to break your own hand.
Oh, easy.
Like, obviously,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
Like that's why, like when you see some hothead who's like punched through a wall or something, it's like, okay, well they broke their hands.
Way to go, pal.
Yeah. And I mean, so So it was talking about like, in an actual fight where you don't have gloves, you don't have tape, you would want to use like open palm stuff. And I was like, that sounds really interesting,
That is interesting. I think I've heard
like
that
you'd
before.
want to like hit like.
I think
pow,
I've also heard that, but like it's just so like non-instinctive
Not at all.
because like you just think like fist,
It's still a
punch.
bone though, is the thing. That's what's interesting about it, is like you've still got this bone and this bone right here.
Right.
And those are still
But
gonna
have you
hurt.
ever like caught yourself on the ground with
Yeah.
that? God fucking shit, that hurts after like especially if you like skateboarding. Like, can you hit the ground hard enough
but
catching
skateboarding,
yourself
you're
like
like
that?
scraping,
No, I'm talking about like even like so you go to the skate park, like yeah, you think you're scraping, but if you go to a skate park, it's like very smooth concrete. Like
Yeah.
you're not gonna scrape, you're not gonna get scraped up. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't really happen. Like at worst, you'll get like concrete burn
Yeah.
from like but like you catch yourself on that hard enough, and oh my god, that whole like right there will just bruise and it'll
Yeah.
hurt for days, and it's like
Yeah.
not fun. So
I don't know. It was just something I read. It was.
I mean,
also
it's
talking about-
probably I can see how it'd be better than punching with your fist.
Well, it was also even like, I mean, this was maybe a little bit more of a stupid argument, but it was talking about like the amount of time that you would save from not balling up your fist.
right?
Like,
No, I could see it.
apparently it's like a couple hundred milliseconds.
If it's a fraction
or
of a
something.
second, it's still time.
Yeah, and they were saying you can also use like the element of surprise or whatever, where you like have your hands up like this, like oh no don't, and then just like.
Oh,
But I was like, but to me that's more like those are kind of gimmicky,
Right. Well, we also in high school football, my head coach would teach us when we were playing defense. Like
Yeah.
if you were a DB, to like when you were jamming somebody on the line, that's how you used.
Yeah.
Like you would just punch like
because you don't want to
that.
break
You'd
your
hit 'em in-
fingers.
Yeah, because if you keep your hands open and you go like that, then you're gonna fuck yourself up.
Yeah.
And if you punch like that, then that's
yeah,
not
fuck your
gonna
knuckles
feel
up.
good. Yeah. So you would
It's
just
like
do
this.
this
Yeah.
and hit with that
The palm, yeah.
exactly right there.
Yeah.
And I think he even like maybe that's where I've heard this before. Was he would say like, if you ever get in a fight, like, great
Yeah.
advice, coach. Thanks. Christian
No,
school.
There's also apparently like so. Have you seen the Sherlock Holmes with RDJ?
Yes. The movie?
Yeah,
Oh, it's wonderful.
it's a good one. Like, isn't maybe one of the better ones, but I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a better
The show?
better Sherlock. But
I would.
I think he's a better fit. But
You
anyway,
think so?
I do. But that's not the point. So
We
in the
could
movie,
we could talk about it.
yeah, we can come back to it if you want. But in the movie, he's like, going through his plan for the fight or whatever, and he's like distraction and like
Right.
discombobulate and all this stuff. And there's a moment where he's ear clapping the guy,
Yeah.
and like,
Does that actually work?
yes,
Really?
have you ever been ear clapped?
No. Don't do it.
I have, and it sucks.
Who did it to you?
My cousins. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
No, I know. Like it was so stupid. It was like when I was a kid. But yeah, like if you come up on somebody and just pow as hard as you can on their ears, it won't like, it's not like in the movie where it's like, oh, like I'm, drunk all
We
of a
get
sudden.
like woozy. Yeah.
But it hurts. And it's like your ears will ring so loud.
Really?
And it's definitely enough to like jar you, to give the other person like a couple of seconds to fuck you up if they want to.
Yeah.
So like that's something interesting too, that like you don't see a lot of people do. Like if I was in a fight with somebody, like let's say, like I've got their shirt with this hand or something,
Yeah.
then yeah, I might try and clap their ear with this one, like who
Right.
knows? Like
Right. Yeah.
if you could even get something like that in, I don't know.
I don't know, man. I might just fucking like right on the neck. God, that would hurt.
Karate chop 'em?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
that. I mean,
It would
just
hurt.
that
Yeah.
little bit of pressure that I just did to myself hurt like a
It would hurt. I
motherfucker.
don't know if it would work very well.
I'm
I
pretty
mean, I don't
sure
know
there's
if like
there's
the ear
a
clap
specific
thing,
way that if you hit somebody right on their neck, I think I'm not gonna say that
Yeah.
I'm certain.
I don't
think
know.
There's a specific way you could
I
like
tend not
knock
to-
somebody out.
tend not to believe in the like magic pressure point shit.
Well,
I
supposedly, if
mean-
you hit somebody in the Adam's apple hard enough, it'll swell up and they'll die because they won't be
Yeah.
able to breathe.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can definitely do that. You can also like you can break somebody's nose bad enough that it like kills them.
Oof.
Yeah, because the nose bone can like kind of invert basically,
Oh.
and it'll actually touch part of your brain, and
Oh.
it's enough to fuck you up to like enough to kill you.
Jesus.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, these are rare,
Right. Yeah.
You
Just
know.
like it just sounds so
No, it is.
painful.
It is.
Oh.
but like I know pressure points are real,
Right.
but like I'm not gonna try and like Vulcan neck pinch you. like from Star Trek.
Right.
It's
Right.
stupid.
Yeah. It's like a
learn effective strategies like jiu-jitsu,
Right.
like kickboxing, like Muay Thai.
yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like that mumbo jumbo that you don't want to like. It's
There's a really
you're
funny
you're
one.
kind of like, I don't know. You're rolling the dice on that
Yeah.
one, because if you miss just by a hair,
Yeah.
you're fucked.
No, I know. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
But oh, what was I about to say?
I can't wait until coronavirus stuff is over so that I can get back
God.
to jiu-jitsu.
God, yeah.
I miss it so much. It's like the only sport I know of where people willingly are like, yeah, you can choke me. You know,
Well,
like,
I know of one other, but
what? Okay, anyway. I wouldn't call that a sport. That's
I mean, some people,
you think it's a sport.
it could be
You
a sport.
misogynist prick.
I'm just kidding. I don't know. Yeah, I'm ready for coronavirus to be over.
I think everybody is.
You know, it's funny. I love Joe Rogan was talking about it. He was like, I think he was talking about how California, that like people are like saying like, when are the schools gonna open up, right?
Yeah.
And California supposedly they're saying, I haven't researched this, so like I'm just kind of spitting out information that I gathered from somewhere else.
Okay.
But supposedly California's said in the past they're gonna wait until after the election to reopen schools, and he's like, at least try to act like it's not political. Like, come on.
It's so true though.
Like, yeah, it is. It's like,
Yeah.
because, and I've been saying this for months. Like, I've been like, it's a slow trickle. Like, and I've noticed very small things as time is going on and as we're getting closer and closer to the election. I've been noticing very small things that we started out with coronavirus, with the quarantine and like the social distancing rules. For one, Publix and like supermarkets had those little like stickers on the floor in the aisles that said like only one way.
Yeah.
Those are gone.
Yeah.
Like all the supermarkets I've been to recently, those stickers are gone. They've already taken those away.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, like they're already like fans are allowed at college football games.
Yeah.
They were having small amounts of fans at the NBA.
Oh, at
finals.
Auburn you can have a meeting of up to 100 people now.
It's a slow trickle that these like rules that we put in place, they're disappearing.
Yeah.
And by January, they will be like damn near gone.
Yeah.
And
probably,
people and
most
the
places.
people that lost their fucking mind over this shit.
Okay, it depends on who wins the election.
You think so?
I mean, yeah, I hate to be that guy, but I think it kind of does.
Okay.
Because so think about it, like what do Republicans stand to gain from continuing coronavirus measures after the election if Trump wins? Nothing, right? Like if anything, they're harmed by that because the perception is that
it's hurting the economy.
That it's hurting the economy,
right.
And the Republicans, if they stand for anything, it's definitely the economy.
Capitalism and economy, right?
Where, I guess I should be more specific. It's if they stand for anything, it's a very specific form of the economy,
right?
But Democrats, what do Democrats stand to gain from having coronavirus continue if Trump wins?
Trust in their voters,
right? Like, or making Trump look bad,
right?
So there's an interesting one. Or Democrats, what do they stand to gain from continuing strong, strict coronavirus measures after Biden wins? If Biden wins, well, it makes it look like they're taking a strong stance against this virus that's killed 200,000 people, and it has killed 200,000 people. Well, but like,
among other things, yeah.
I don't want to like downplay that because
right. It's 200,000 lives.
It's 200,000 people that have died. I hate to say it, but it's like it's 200,000 people's lives who are very, very much so being used as a political agenda, whether people like it or not, and that's a damn shame actually. That like it's been so politically charged that these people's lives are no longer really valuable for the sake that they died, but they're valuable for advancing some political agenda, depending on which side you're on.
Right.
And that sucks.
And I would say that, and this is kind of inflammatory language, and I expect you to rebut, but I would say that it's to try to get the conversation going. But
no, you're good.
I would say that anything that becomes political ammunition is no longer useful. Like the second that you like because then like somebody's gonna pick it up and become extreme.
Sure.
So like the Black Lives Matter movement, what happened there? Everybody picked up arms. They went out and they started protesting, and they rioted and looted and all this kind of stuff. So immediately you've lost people that like may have been on your side, that may have contributed and helped with the movement. So when you start rioting and looting and all this kind of stuff, people that may have been like, hey, I'm with this cause because that was some fucked up shit that happened to George Floyd.
Yeah.
When you started doing all that shit, the people that may have been on your side are gone because now they're like, y'all are a bunch of fucking idiots.
Yeah,
And
I get what you're saying. Like the moment it becomes politically divisive, is that what you mean? It's no
yeah, I
longer
guess
useful?
politically divisive. Yeah. That's when it becomes not useful because
I don't know. So like I think, like I was telling you before we started recording, like I'm trying to be a more positive person.
Okay. All right.
So I think it's our job to try to remain like sensible when things like that happen,
as in
each individual. So like whenever so let's say I hear, first of all, I hear about
ignoring the individuals that are already a part of it.
So first of all, I hear about the George Floyd scenario, just going with the example you used. I think it's my job to first, not jump to any conclusions about the police. Now that's easy for me to say because it's not my race involved, like it's being killed. But I think it's my job to not jump to rash conclusions about the police, like as a whole.
Right.
And it's also my job to not vandalize local businesses. It's my job to like,
right.
As tough as it might be, it's my job to hold my emotions at bay,
right.
For the sake of like unifying the greater people, the greater group of people in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the flip side, when people start vandalizing local businesses and when people start expressing their grief, as some people have called it, then I think it's my job to not jump to any conclusions about those people, right? Like, so there's a lot of debate on whether or not they're even black people that are doing it. There's a lot of debate on whether they're even people that actually support Black Lives Matter movement that are doing it. Like some people say it's like
benefit from looting.
Well, some people say it's like people who are actually far right people that are kind of using this moment to make black people look worse. By going and vandalizing in the name of Black Lives Matter to make black people
look. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It does. So that's what I'm saying. It's my job. It's each of our job as an individual.
Gives that much of a fuck?
Some people apparently, like, I mean, I think it's easy to say like, okay, if you're a black person and you're watching a man get, murdered in the street by a cop, then yeah, it's obviously you give a fuck.
Right? You give a fuck about that. But I mean, the people that are like
I know what you mean. You're talking about far right.
Yeah, that's like, dude, get a fucking life.
Hopefully nobody, right? That's what I'm saying.
Go back to your mother's basement and jerk off in your fucking corner and quit being a dick. Like,
yeah. Anyway,
like, God, that shit just that like kind of stuff. Like that dude in. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're good.
But like that guy that like went out and like to the protests. Was it in Minnesota? Where was it?
Minnesota, maybe?
That white guy that like showed up with an AR and like shot some of the protesters, and then
I'm not aware of this.
Walked by the police with an AR, and they didn't do shit. After shooting like 3 protesters, you didn't hear about this?
That doesn't sound.
Yes.
Okay.
Like this was a big thing. This like people like lost their mind. This was another thing that people lost their mind about recently. But I guess I don't blame you for being like not knowing because there's been so much shit that's happened recently.
Well, also, I mean, you can't blame me for not knowing because not all news gets shown to everybody.
Right. Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I don't blame you for not knowing because like, yeah, there's
even if you have so here's something that a lot of people don't know. I think it's to the tune of 60% of reporters have a politically left bend.
Damn.
Yeah. Even if they for example, even if they work for Fox, which is a politically right-leaning news channel.
Right.
Reporters that work for Fox have politically left bends. So then those, and a lot of people don't know that the reporters at these places get the choice of how they report the story. So they get to choose the adjectives that they use. They get to choose which information they emphasize and de-emphasize.
Right.
So, for example, like I could say peaceful protest, or I could say violent protest.
Yeah, or you
and I
could
get
call
to
them
choose.
thugs.
I could call them thugs, or I could call them vandals, or I could call them
whatever you want.
Protesters, or I could call them, like citizens. Or,
you could literally use any language that you want that you think might get clicks.
Exactly.
Might get clicks.
Exactly. So, and since there's 60% of them that have politically left leaning ideologies, then you actually see kind of unfair representation in the news of left ideas.
Right.
So, all that to say, I think something that a lot of people could learn from right now, and this is, I'm speaking to myself here, is like whenever somebody says something that's outrageous, or somebody says something that's like, I've never heard of that.
Right.
You might ought to consider, well, you maybe didn't hear about it because the news didn't tell you about it, but they told this other person about it. So that goes back to, actually kind of goes perfectly back to what I was saying. I think it's our individual responsibility to maintain a sense of, to maintain our senses in those situations. To be rational and say, okay, I might not have all of the information here. And also, as emotional as this all is, I need to have discussions with people that probably don't share my viewpoint.
Right.
And when they get emotional, because they probably will nowadays, it's unfortunate, but that's how most people are, is they're like fucking children.
Well, it's that mob mentality, man. They feel like they've joined this mass of people.
It's just crazy
who are
to
doing
me.
the right thing, and they feel so validated from it.
Yeah,
doing the Trump thing, bigly. Sorry, I do that so much. I don't know why. But they feel so validated by this mass of people, or this mob that they've joined, and this torch that they.
It's also just virtue signaling. We can get into that in a second, but I was just going to say it's crazy to me how I can say something very simple, or I can ask a very simple question, and then I can just get this crazy amount of backlash from people that's wow, you fucking racist bigot, and
Jesus.
And I'm like, whoa, okay, and sometimes it's I'm just using that as a over exaggerated.
Has that happened to you recently?
No, I haven't been called a racist recently because I'm not a racist, but and I think, but that's the interesting thing. I think there's a large group of people that would say if you're white, you're racist.
Yeah,
I've heard it. I've seen it on my Instagram feed. I've seen people doctors at universities
white people say it.
I've seen professors at universities talking about how every white person is inherently racist. And
I've heard the argument that if you're black, you can't be racist.
Yeah, which is not true. It's, that's, yeah, it's
There's
not.
a lot of crazy ideas.
It's just fundamentally not true that if you're black, you can't be racist.
It's inflammatory.
Yeah, it is. It's divisive. It doesn't serve any purpose. Yeah. Anyway, but like I said, I think it's just everybody's individual responsibility. You need to, when other people are emotionally all over the place, you should try to maintain your sensibility.
It's difficult.
It is. It's really hard.
Yeah, but
it
it's
takes
also
a lot of maturity. It also takes a very open mind, because you have to be willing to listen to things that are sometimes just absolute bullshit.
Absolute bullshit, and just completely disagree with everything that you believe.
And then sometimes you have to listen to things that are pretty logical, but are just kind of the opposite of what you think.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely it's a hard pill to swallow. Especially when you're sitting there talking to somebody and you completely disagree with them, and then they make a really good point, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
That's pretty difficult.
Has that happened to you recently?
Not that I can think of. Yeah. Maybe with you, but
I'm the one that did it.
Yeah, but me and you have tough conversations all the time.
Yeah,
where we just disagree on something. Yeah. But
because I think politically I'm a little bit right of center, and I think politically you're a little bit left of center.
Do you really?
Yeah, I think so. You don't think so?
No, I don't really know. I don't really. I feel pretty like
I feel like if we went through like a platform of like the issues that you believe in, I think you would change your mind.
You think so?
Yes.
Maybe. I've never been like really put to the test.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I do like listening to other people that like claim to be left of center.
Yeah.
I
I don't think you're like when I say
no, I
leftist,
don't. No, I
mean,
don't
like,
think you. No, I'm not like a libtard.
But most people
but,
aren't.
Like, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Sucks to suck.
Not a snowflake.
Yeah.
Ben
definitely
Shapiro
not.
melts snowflakes. I saw one that it was so funny. I love those captions and like titles and shit. I saw one on YouTube that was like Ben Shapiro, professional snowflake melter.
Wow. That's
I
wonderful.
was like, I love that so much.
That's so true though. He just fucking rips on people.
He's a really good debater. You know? Like,
Oh yeah.
He's very
Everything he does is like rooted in data.
not all of it actually.
A good bit of it.
He's very
Not all of it.
So if you study some of his debate, a lot of it is, you're right. He uses a lot of data and he uses his data very effectively is the other thing.
Yeah.
So like
It's kind of terrifying though because a lot of time he's just throwing out those numbers, and you're kind of like, okay,
you
can
need to
like,
check them.
Yeah, can you like post those in the description, the
Right.
links?
Yeah.
I just want to see it.
I mean, I don't think he'd have any problem with that.
No,
if I'm
he
being
wouldn't.
honest.
He wouldn't.
Seems like the kind of guy who spends outrageous amounts
Amount
of time
looking at this kind of
researching
stuff.
this
Right,
shit.
Yeah.
So he seems that way. That doesn't mean he is.
You never know.
But yeah, what I was going to say, he uses data very effectively. So like, there's a lot of ways that you can report statistics that make things seem certain ways. And I'm not saying that he's skewing statistics by any means. Most of the stuff that I've heard him report have been accurate statistics.
Right. But it's kind of similar to that idea of like when you Google a question, you can Google it in a certain way that makes you sound right.
Yeah. I think it's hard to do. I think it's harder to do that with data.
Right. Oh no, it is harder, but
It's harder,
it's the similar concept.
It is.
You
it
can
is.
kind of take something and
But
skew it a little
here's
bit.
a good example, right? I can say both of these sentences and both of them are correct, right? I can say that white men are incarcerated 4 times more often than black men, right?
Really?
And that's true, but there's also roughly 4 times as many white men as there are black men.
That's also true. Yeah.
You know?
So
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But I could also say, you know, that I think, like, I could say that 40%, this is a true statistic, I could say 40% of drug-related crimes are for possession only, right?
How much percent?
40%,
Really?
right? And that sounds like it's a lower percentage, like because it's less than half. I think the immediate assumption is like, oh, okay, that's not so bad.
40%'s a big percentage.
It is a big one. I mean, I agree because it's possession only, and I think possession only, depending on the drug. So
in the situation.
I'm not the type of person that I think that all drugs should be legal, right? But I do think that there are several drugs that are Schedule 1 that shouldn't be Schedule 1. We can get into that later. But to me, 40% actually sounds like
I think the scheduling system's dumb.
It
I'm just
is.
gonna put that out there.
It
but,
is.
Yeah.
some of it. But I think that like 40% to me sounds actually relatively low because it's like that means that 60% of them, over half,
Mm-hmm.
were because of usage or because of dealing or selling or intent to use or intent to sell or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, so more than half. But when you look at the numbers, like 40% that are possession only, the numbers, that's like 620,000 incarcerations that are possession
Jeez.
only. So when you hear that number, 620,000, you're like, wow,
That's a
that's
lot.
a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, so Ben Shapiro uses data very effectively the way he communicates things.
Right. He
Like,
puts
he
it in,
gets-
he'll say either like if the percentage is more swaying, then he'll use the
Right.
percentage.
Whichever
if the,
one's
if
more
the number
convincing.
if the number is larger and sounds really
Right.
big and scary, then he'll use
Yeah.
the number.
Now the thing is, so I think there's an important distinction here to make, which is that there's times where you can use data to say things which are misleading, like the first example where I said, white men are incarcerated 4 times more often.
Right.
So what that makes it seem like is that there's a racial bias in police officers against white people,
Right.
but that's not true.
Not true. It's just
Because
there's
whenever you
more white
adjust for
people.
like the actual, you
Percentage of the
normalize by
people.
how many white people there are, then it all of a sudden it starts to make more sense.
Right.
So there's a difference between doing that where you're misleading people with data
Mhm.
versus where you're just using both of them are true, neither of them are misleading, but one of them is more convincing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Wait, say that again.
So both of them are true,
Both are true,
neither are misleading,
but one is more
but
convincing.
one is more convincing.
Got it.
So
Okay,
like I
see
could
what you're
say,
saying.
like if I said 4 out of 5 or 80%, or if I said like a certain number which happens to be 80%, but
Some numbers just like sound better.
right, like if I said like 5 million, right,
Yeah.
instead of like 5 million out of 10 million,
Yeah.
instead of 50%. 5 million sounds better because it's a large number,
Right.
you know.
Right.
It's
Or
still
if you said
true.
like, I don't know, or if like the American population's like 350 million people. So
Somewhere in there.
if you go in and say like how many people died from coronavirus? 200,000?
Yeah, exactly. So if you report that as a percentage,
It's like tiny.
so 200,000 is a fifth of a million, so it's 1/1500th of the population. It's what less than 1,000th of the population.
It's a very
So
small
it's,
percentage.
It's less than 1/100th
so when you say it as a
of
percentage, people are like, "Oh, that's nothing."
Right.
But then when you say 200,000 people, then you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay,
That's a lot.
That's a lot of people."
Yeah. Or when you compare it to comparable, for example, this was in the presidential debate, or the vice presidential debate, like H1N1. There were 600,000 cases of H1N, or no, maybe even more actually. No, there were more, because I think
Really?
it was. Hold on, let me think. I want to say it was like, I need to look it up. I want to say there were 60 million.
You want me to look it up?
Yeah, you can. 60 million contractions of H1N1, and had it been as fatal as coronavirus, then it would have been like,
Right.
It
Yeah.
would have been an insane number of deaths.
How many cases of H1N1 in 2009? Is that
Yeah,
when it happened?
Somewhere in there, 2008, 2009.
From April 12th, 2009 to April 10th, 2010, CDC estimated there were 60.8 million cases.
Yeah, 60 million.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So had it been as fatal as corona,
Yeah, there were only 274,000 hospitalizations.
right, and there were even fewer deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So we got lucky on that one.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that many people.
Got H1N1.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
so,
even what have we haven't had that many cases of coronavirus here,
No.
have we?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
Fuck.
I think it's like 2 million, maybe. Somewhere in
Man.
there. I may be wrong.
That's wild. Yeah, I think it's about 1
I
or 2
don't look
million.
up the numbers every day.
I don't
I'm
either.
not like a big,
I used to I remember like when all this first broke out, I was
Yeah.
like looking up the numbers, hoping like, oh, let's flatten the curve. Oh, no. And then eventually I was like, this is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop doing this.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like, not flattening. I mean, flattening the curve isn't dumb. And
No,
like,
but like staring at the data all the time is stupid.
well, also there's so much of it that like you don't know if you can trust it.
no, yeah.
You know.
Well, it's become a political weapon. Is the
it
problem.
has.
And like,
well, it's also it's not just political in the sense of like political candidates for the presidential and vice presidential election. It's like political in the sense of like, well, there are medical organizations out there that stand to make a lot of money from doing this.
that's what I was gonna say. Is there's more than one political aspect to it. There's
right.
political, like you said, in the election. Then
Yeah.
there's political as in like these companies could make a lot of money off of this.
Yeah.
And then even further than that, like kind
There's
of
also
like
political like international relations with like China and the EU.
well, there's
stuff,
that,
you
and then
know?
there's like political as in like as a scientist, like or even in like as a scientist in your
Do I
social
publish
circle.
a controversial opinion or something?
Right.
Yeah.
Like so like if you disagree with what the majority of everybody else is saying,
Then you don't believe in science.
then you don't and it's like no, it's just that
That's one that I thought was really funny. So my dad actually made a really good point about climate change.
Mhm.
So I should start by saying that I think that climate change is a very important issue, and I think it's like obviously correlated at least to carbon emissions and like methane.
I would say methane's probably our bigger
greenhouse
problem.
gases.
Yeah.
Well, apparently methane's going to take over as being the most like the primary contributor pretty
Well,
soon.
I mean, it's as far as like its effectiveness as a greenhouse gas, it's like
Way more.
like some ridiculous number, like worse than carbon dioxide.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers off the top of my
I'm
head.
gonna
My
look
brother
it
would
up.
be the one to ask.
But go ahead with what you were gonna say.
But my dad made a really good point. I was talking to him about how because Jupiter is so massive, it causes the center of gravity of the solar system to not be at the center of the sun. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Just by a little bit.
Yep.
and all the other planets contribute a little bit too. So you can think of it as like all these vectors that were pulling on the sun a little bit, right? So then, by the definition of gravity, it's not just the sun which is pulling things towards it. It's also other things pulling the sun towards them, right? So then the sun is moving, not just moving through space. It's obviously moving through space,
right?
But it's also moving with respect to our planets.
Yeah, it's moving
just a little,
in a very small circle,
just a little bit.
Yeah,
maybe like, not even like a circle.
Maybe like just some ellipse.
Yeah,
probably.
some ellipse.
Probably
maybe the ellipse is also like slowly rotating, and like stuff like that. We if we were able to project it onto like a 2D surface that track it over time, then
and
then
like do a time lapse on it for like thousands of years. Yeah, then you
maybe
could probably
even
see
millions or billions.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I was talking to him about that, and he's like, "Well, then that means that the sun is sometimes a lot closer to the Earth than it is other times, depending on where Jupiter is in its orbit." And I was like, "That's very true." So then, some of climate change could be attributed to that.
And how slowly does the sun move on this tiny little
Who knows
that we're unaware of?
Like exactly, that's the point. Is that there's so much of science that
the sun's also getting hotter.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't. They're just like, carbon dioxide.
Don't they? They get hotter until basically right before
they
their
die.
death,
Yeah.
and then they get a little cooler, and then they explode.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a little cooler, like probably orders of magnitude cooler.
Yeah.
But they're already so massively hot. That,
right.
Yeah.
So I looked it up. Methane is 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas.
Yeah.
That's insane.
But its percent by volume or its part is way less right now. But
at the moment,
at least. So, all right. So if we take the amount of carbon dioxide and then we consider the amount it contributes,
right,
and then we take the amount of methane and consider the amount it contributes, I think right now
they're pretty close.
Carbon dioxide is higher than methane, but they're pretty close. And methane is projected to overtake pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret. We got to do something. So,
yeah. I mean, duh. But the point I was getting at was like, if I were to say something like, well, actually part of climate change is not from greenhouse gases, and I just left it at that, and I didn't give that long explanation about the sun and all, then people would be like, oh, well, he doesn't believe in science.
Yeah. It's
like, no, I might just like believe in a different perspective on science than you.
Yeah. Well, it's also like, I don't know, if you're not like attuned to this mainstream idea of greenhouse gas emissions, then that's all that everybody knows for the most part. Like, so if you're not talking to somebody that's willing to ask you questions and learn, and B, like if they have just married this idea of like greenhouse gas emissions and they're like, whatever, then like, yeah, they're immediately just going to go like, oh, well, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
And then just stop listening to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's kind of mind-boggling that people think that way. I think what's crazy is that I used to think that way. Like back in high school, I was kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
Because it's because I was uneducated that I acted this way.
There was a meme that I saw on Instagram that was like, the smarter you get, the dumber you sound to dumb people.
I like that. It kind of
I was like,
sense.
I thought about it. I was like, that's kind of true, because if I tried to explain to like somebody, and if I tried to explain like relativity, for example, to somebody,
I was about to go there. I was about to say like relativity is a perfect example.
If I was like falling into this black hole with a flashing light on my wrist, that light would be slowing down for you. They'd be like,
what?
This guy's a fucking moron.
Well, you'd also like, I was watching Veritasium the other day.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how you're actually, like, according to the, like, general relativity, you're actually accelerating upward from the force that's being applied to you from the Earth that you're standing on or sitting on.
Okay.
And that's because everything in space moves through space-time in a straight line. But when you put a very massive object in space-time, it bends space-time. So like the International Space Station is moving in a straight line through space-time, but space-time is being bent by the Earth, right? So it actually, and if you include, space-time, you think of it.
I was trying to get in my head like a sense of scale for what you mean by a massive object.
Something like Earth.
Okay.
Yeah, something that has like a significant gravitational pull.
Because
Yeah.
Because Pluto, I guess, would not qualify.
Yeah. So there's according to relativity, I think, and I don't want to like be inflammatory here and say the wrong thing, but I think what he was basically saying in the video was that there is no gravitational force in the theory of relativity, because what it is that it's just a massive object that is bending space-time. It's not pulling things in. Things are just traveling now on a curved plane.
So I watched this reminds me of I watched Carl Sagan's explanation of the fourth dimension.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so it makes me think of this. It's going to take a while to explain though.
Okay, go for it.
But like, so the idea is like, you've heard of flatland?
No. Oh, no? Yeah.
Flatland is like if you took the entire Earth and you just flattened everything out into 2 dimensions. We were 2-dimensional beings. We're these little rectangles that live in this flatland. So when we come up to a room, we can't see into that room, but the room itself is flat. Right. We can open the door and come in the room and everything, but everything's still flat. So then what would happen is if I took this like 3-dimensional can, right, and I saw parts of it in my flatland, I would just see like a cross section of it. You know?
Yeah, just a tiny little
sliver of it. It would look like a ring actually for all the parts in the middle here. And then as we got to like the top, you would see the entire top.
Right.
Or at least a small sliver of the entire top. And then this is going to start getting into like, if you wanted to, we could get into the mathematical definitions of flatland because they don't really exist. It's an infinitely small slice of 3-dimensional space. But so he was saying if I were to take something and lift it out of flatland, then from our perspective, it would just disappear.
Yeah.
Because we don't understand depth.
Yeah, we don't. Oh, wow.
So it would just completely disappear. It would be like it vanished.
Yeah.
Right. When really it has just moved in a dimension which we're unaware of.
Right.
So then he was saying that's the same thing with 4 dimensions, but with 3-dimensional objects. Like if R2 here was to move in the 4th dimension in any way, he would just disappear, just vanish.
Holy shit.
He'd still be there in 3 dimensions too.
Oh my God.
But in a different any different continuous number in the 4th dimension.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So this is the part that
makes
made me
sense,
think of.
but
It does.
damn.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So then you or I could just vanish right now.
Right.
If our 4th dimensional value changed at all.
Yeah.
So this was the interesting part though. He was like, now imagine flatland again. So go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
We're these flat objects. We live in this flat world and all 3 dimensions doesn't make sense to us. But imagine that flatland is slightly curved.
Okay.
In an imperceptible way to us.
Right.
So imagine that flatland is so massive that we can't possibly, see to the end of it. We couldn't perceive the curve.
Right.
Because our vision is limited. So then now imagine that you could traverse the entire sphere that flatland is now.
Okay.
Right. Because flatland is curved, it'll eventually come back on itself.
Yeah.
You would discover something that didn't make sense to you, right? Which is that I can go through space in this flat world.
Oh shit!
And then walk in one direction
and come back
to where I am.
Fuck.
But I've not discovered depth.
No.
Right?
No, but
I've discovered this conundrum of walking the entire surface of my existence. So then he says that's what a lot of people think actually is the case for the universe, the observable universe, which is that the 4th dimension is very, very subtly curved.
Oh my Lord.
And that we could eventually come upon our exact, position in the 4th dimension again.
Oh my God.
If we had infinite time, which we don't, but
we don't.
I mean the blip that we are on the timeline is so
which
tiny.
Is like 0. Yeah.
But isn't that like mind-boggling?
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
How did we even talk? Oh, we were talking about
You're talking about how large objects curve space-time.
Right.
So then that's what it makes me think of is like, okay, is that what we're talking about? Is that like there's this...
And what's really cool to think about is like if you were to draw a path of the International Space Station orbiting around Earth, you think of it as a circle.
Yeah.
But if you think of it as a circle, you're ignoring time.
Mm-hmm.
So with time, it's actually a helix. It's going through space.
Well, yeah,
this.
right.
And that that's just not something you commonly think of. You're
No.
like, oh fuck, like
Right.
yeah, it is a helix.
And so here's another thing that I think is interesting to think about is that so we experience time kind of linearly, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't accelerate, at least not from our perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But like thinking of time as being like thinking of us being 4-dimensional, if we were 4-dimensional beings, then that would mean we would like integrate from like if our function is a function of 3 dimensions, 3 variables,
right?
Then we would integrate, and then the 4th term would all of a sudden appear. Right? It would no longer be constant. It would now have some variable, some scalar, maybe even it might even be squared or cubed or something like that. You know, so then time might actually have acceleration.
Oh God.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, that's so weird.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Yeah. That's strange to think about.
Yeah, that time might warp, like sort of it might compress and extend.
Right. Hold on. I'm trying to like retrace our steps. Where were we?
How did we get onto this?
Yeah. How did I even start talking about the space station?
We're talking about climate change and talking about how massive objects change the center of gravity of the solar system.
That's right. Okay.
And then that got you on massive objects. And then that got me on curvature of the 4th dimension.
We've talked about so many different things. And I don't even think we've been recording for that long.
No, we've been recording.
No, I know. I'm saying for that long. It hadn't even been that long. It's probably been like an hour, maybe.
No, we've recorded all this.
Yeah, no, I know.
This is gold.
It's gold, baby.
This would be a great podcast to get high to.
Yeah, I would love to get high and like just listen to this.
Not patting my own back or anything, but.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just back on the whole thing of like just ready for coronavirus to be over. Like, it's kind of weird though, because like I've gotten so used to like not having to be anywhere all the time.
It sucks. It really kills your sense of purpose, right?
Yeah, it sucks, but like I'm also like working pretty consistently, so like I just don't like think about it, I guess.
But this is why I don't think I could work remotely.
Really?
Like not for an extended period of time.
Okay.
I think I like, even though I feel like I'm an introvert in a lot of ways, I think I thrive too much off of like interpersonal
communication.
Yeah, I think I've learned about myself that like I like bouncing ideas off of people.
Mm-hmm.
Marissa would probably tell you that I don't, because like I'll ask her for her opinion sometimes, and then she'll give me her opinion. I'll be like, well, but blah blah blah, you know, like
right.
And she's like, well, if you didn't want my criticism, then why'd you ask?
Right.
And it's like I did. I was just, I had already, thought of it from that perspective, I think, and so I was just making sure I didn't have any gaps.
Right.
And I think I really benefit from that. And I think that's really frustrating for some people, because like I do think about things from a lot of different perspectives, and then they come with their perspective. I'm like, okay, I've already considered that one.
Right.
But sometimes, every now and then, someone will say something. I'll be like, holy shit, I hadn't even thought of it that way. And I benefit from that a lot. And I love it. Like,
yeah.
I like being proven wrong when it results in like something really positive.
Right.
I don't like being proven wrong just for being proven wrong's sake. I don't think
nobody does. Right. But like when you're like,
when something beautiful comes out of it, I'm like, yes.
You're like, thank God.
I'm so glad I was wrong.
Right. Exactly.
But
yeah, because like yeah, you're right. Nobody ever wants to be proven wrong just to be proven wrong. Like,
so I miss the office for that reason.
Yeah, I would say that I did, but like I just feel like at the office that I was working at, there wasn't a whole lot of like the problems that I was like trying to solve, or like the meetings that we had, or like the ideas I was bouncing off of people were never like that what's the word? They were never that deep. It was like it didn't really matter, I'm not even talking about deep ideas all the time. Sometimes it's just like something simple, like, does this color look good? Right.
Does this format look good?
Yeah.
On like a presentation or something.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's not
just like
it's
simple
not,
stuff.
Yeah, it's not like I'm having like breakthroughs every day at work.
Right. Nobody is. Yeah. But like, I don't know. Yeah. I guess I've realized that like, but I've also been working remotely for 2 years now, so I've just kind of gotten used to it, I guess.
Yeah.
I still miss the office, and I like to be able to go in whenever I want. But like,
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
well,
You want to wrap it up?
yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah. I think that was a good one.
Yeah, it was good. It was like an hour,
Something like that.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. Good conversation.
And it's the first time that we've done an episode since we have the new name.
The new name and just us.
Just us, no
We haven't
guest.
had just us since the drunk episode.
Yeah, that's true.
So
First sober,
first
no guest.
sober, no guest episode.
What a landmark. Cool.
Well, yeah. Andrew, I enjoyed talking to you. Thanks for coming on to the show.
Namaste. Blah.